Hey there, welcome to Synth Seeker. My name is Luke. Today we're going to look at sort of a berlinschool jam. This is a hardware jam that I am using Ableton though as the primary sequencer, using Push as the input device. Got a Launchpad Pro over here for doing transpositions. So I don't know, is this a hybrid thing? It's not DAW-less, but it uses like every piece of hardware I've got. So I don't know. You figure that one out. So what I'm going to do is walk us through the setup and sort of the organization of how this jam is set up to work. This is an unprepared jam. Like, there aren't any clips prepared in advance. I actually don't have, anything pre-recorded. There are no loops ready to be triggered. This is an empty set. Let's see. So there's the screen, an empty set. The only thing prepared are the synth sounds themselves. So let's go through those, okay? So as per sort of berlinschool synthwavy sort of the last, couple of years worth of videos, we're starting with, we've got a Subsequent 37 here that's playing a Pluck. Okay. It's a berlinschool Pluck, okay? We've got dotted eighth delay on it, and some reverb, a little bit of phasing. If we look at the device chain here, I've got some pitch controls. I have a randomizer in there, although I'm not using it here. We're working in A harmonic minor here, and I'm using a scale plugin that's there. Specifically, even though the Push is in chromatic mode, I'm using the scale plugin because if I do transpositions on the Launchpad, I want it to be constrained and stay within the key of A minor. It's harmonic minor. I've got a little utility here that I use that facilitates me spawning new clips, recording new clips, in a series. There's a video on that. I'm not going to worry about it right now. But basically, there's an instrument rack with some patch control, and it's going to an external instrument, which is the Subsequent. Okay, so that's that instrument. All right. And what are we using as far as effects on that? There's a Univibe, the depths. There's a phaser, the grand orbiter. It's going through an old Boss digital delay and then into a Ventris reverb pedal. So those are the only external processing that I'm using. Everything else is either from the synth itself or in the box here. Our next instrument is, this is Waldorf Iridium. It's another Pluck, dotted eighth delay. It will sustain as well. And it's doing a little wavetable scan. So this gets back to our timbral modulation, right? So this sound is interesting to our ears because it's not static. You can hear that wavetable slowly panning, getting sort of moved through. And if we treat it like a Pluck, the table is being scanned. It's being scanned by just a free-running LFO. So each of these Plucks has a slightly different timbre to its attack. Right? There's no reverb on that, actually. Right, the delay itself gives us a sense of space. So we've got two Plucks, all right? Then I've got this Nord A1 is doing this layered patch that's part arpeggiation and part high strings. So that's there just to give us some motion, some fill, some harmonic pieces. Let's see, we've got a Nord Wave 2 doing a lead for us. Okay, so that's just, a pretty standard virtual analog synth patch. What we're running it through is a dotted eighth delay from the echo from built in through Ableton, and then processing it with some Valhalla shimmer, which makes those pitch bend dives sound great. Right, that's getting into space whale territory. Right, so this is all prep, right? We're not prepping what the loops are. This is going to be full improv, but we've preset the sounds that we're going to be working with. All right, so there's our lead. Then we've got, I like to have a little sort of cosmic feel to it. So we're using a Cobalt 8 here to do sort of a bent lead. That's actually one of the presets right off of it. It's called Angel Dust. And that all the processing is happening inside the Cobalt. So it's still in key, but that initial attack's got a bend to it, and I don't know if that's a ring mod. I haven't disassembled the patch yet, but I think that's a bit of a ring mod. Getting in there. So we'll use that for flavor texture. Then we've got a Novation Summit with a split. This is literally a preset off of their called, what is it, Board in Canada. And whoever programmed this was totally listening to Boards in Canada, but it's like, you know, I'm not going to play the whole thing because I don't want to, you know, the algorithm, the detection sniffers will catch it if I play the tune, right? But that is the bass right out of a very popular Boards of Canada track. And the top end, the soft synth strings with a big cathedral sort of reverb. And the only processing I'm doing there is I've got a little EQ on it, just pushing up the high end for a little, it was a little dark. So just bumped it a little bit, right? So it sizzles just a tiny bit more. And then I've got this Rickenbacker bass that I love so much. And I've got it layered with a Moog Taurus sub bass. Right, and some delay on that and a little reverb. Anyway, so we'll use that for the low end. All right, so that's really our sounds. Oh, and then I've got a little drum rack here. Just 6 sounds. I've got a loop that I'm just going to let run. That is the one prepared thing. I've got this loop ready. All right. So I'm going to keep that there. Really, that's about it. So that's all the prep we've done. We're set up. It's chromatic mode on the grid, although because of the scale plugins that are there, that in-between note, that out-of-scale note, it's being forced into the scale. So I literally can't play anything out of key. So that's advantageous to you. Later in life, as you're working through this, you're going to probably not want to do that so that you can play those accidentals. But the reason I have it in place is so that I could do transpositions over here. And we'll get to that. So we'll start making some noise. I'm going to talk over this as we're going, just giving you my thought process on what I do as I build this stuff up to give you an idea of how you can do it yourself. All right. So we'll get started. I'm going to set this to start. We're going to start with a pluck, have our rhythm going, and we'll set the fixed length to be a single bar. And here we go. All right, my timing was off, but I've got it quantized on the recording, so that's fine. Clean it up after me. So that's an initial bed. It's hovering around the root, that is A. I'm going to layer the other pluck on top of this, and you don't have to record right away. You can play with it. Let's bring that up in the mix just a little bit. All right, we'll do this one 4 bars. So there's our bed. Now that's basically playing around A. It's hovering around the root of A. And what I can do with the Launchpad over here is I can do transpositions. So if I move around the scale, it'll force everything around the key diatonically. Right? So we can go from the first root, to a second interval, to a fifth, or fourth. There's a fifth. Actually, no, I had it the other way. And that's a fifth. There's a fourth. Seventh. Back to root. So we can use this Launchpad over here to do transpositions of the whole piece as it's playing. But we'll just leave it at the root right now and layer some more pieces on top of this. So that's playing. What do I want to get in here? Let's put in some of these Wailing Cobalt 8 sounds. And we're going to put a long bar in here, 16 bar loop. We'll add some pitch bends. So we've got those flying. Now I'll put in some of that Nord A1, and we'll stay mostly on the root. Well, this one can be shorter. We'll do this at 4 bars. And we can just play over that now. You could solo on that, for as long as you want. You could record something over it or not. Or you can go back and start changing some of the other patterns. Right? So what have we got playing? We have the subsequent, the Iridium, the A1, the Cobalt, and the drums playing. Let's change the Iridium pattern. I'm just playing roots, keeping it really simple. And we're going to do the same thing with the subsequent. We're going to duplicate those parts. There we go. Now, those are playing really simple, just root parts. And it'll be easier to transpose them. I'm going to stop the Cobalt and do transposition. We'll go to a fourth, to a fifth, sixth, seventh, and just hold it back to our root. So you can do some, subtle changes over here that are going to make people think you've changed the patterns, like you had prepared patterns already, when really all you're doing is transposing existing patterns diatonically in real time. put some bass in here.
So I screwed up. Pattern's too short. We'll delete it. Mistakes happen, right? So when you make a mistake when you're working on this, just back it out, delete it. You've got this whole bed running, right? So my mistake was I wanted to play an 8-bar pattern, but I had it set to stop it, start looping at 4. So we'll change it and we'll pick it up again. 4, 3, 2, 1. Go. Mistakes happen. It's not a big deal. That's why we practice, right? And so you can keep building layers and building layers and building layers until you get to a point where you start wanting to take things out, right? And you either bring the volume down on the individual instruments, or you stop your sequences playing, mute your sequences in your sequencer. In the case of live here, I'm going to slow these patterns down, or stop the patterns. All right, so now all I've got is the subsequent and the Iridium playing. Let's bring in some of this Summit. We'll bring in a new piece of, a new progression. Let's do something like this. Bass line on this. We'll put a little more rhythm in it. I know this is not quite as spacey as it could be, but I'm a sucker for bass rhythms. So do I like that? I think it could be better. So what we're going to do is we're going to kill it. We're going to delete it just as it's coming to an end and re-record it, because I had a better idea while I was playing it. And that's the nature of a jam, right? Like that better. Now let's double this Summit part. We'll play the same thing on the A1. And we'll take out the subsequent and the Iridium too. I mean, this is not the greatest thing ever, but it's live. What do you expect?
start bringing stuff out. And we can bring some of our old patterns back. We'll bring back that screaming Cobalt 8 too. Let's replace the summit as well. I don't like how that's turning out. We'll just take it out. We'll bring out the rhythm. And that's it. So there's a completely improvised jam. Like none of that was prepared, as my mistakes probably made it obvious, right? But that's okay. When you're doing this, if you make a mistake, chances are nobody will know but you. And if they, if someone calls you on it, if they're a jerk about it, whatever, just move on, right? But most people aren't going to notice. They're going to love what you're doing. And, don't be embarrassed. You can always delete that part and re-record it, right? There's nothing wrong with that. The nature of this kind of music is that it's this long flowing sort of, blend of textures coming in and out and things like that. And then when you're done, in this case, over in the software, I've got recordings of the patterns I did. So I can mine this later for, a formal piece that I build and then release, right? So, that's an example. So for this sort of berlinschool-y soundtrack, maybe kind of synthwave story music, whatever you want to call it. I'm really bad with genres and subgenres. Basically, this is a hardware jam that's using Ableton Push grid, basically, and a Launchpad as an input device and a transposition control surface. I'm using Ableton basically as a mixer. It's a glorified mixer, basically, and an effects processor. A lot of the effects are coming from pedals and or internal to the synths, a few from the machine itself, and we just capture it. It works pretty well. So it doesn't matter what you choose or how you choose to build your compositions, right? When you're building a jam, there is no wrong way to do it. There's just different ways. This is how I do it. If this resonates with you, or if you work in a way similar to this, and there's some overlap, and you can benefit from anything I'm showing you here, great. If you have questions, ask them in the comments. I'm happy to explain everything I'm doing here. And if you have, points of improvement, if you're like, it would be better if you did it this way, or hey, maybe I'm missing a feature or a technique, then you can tell me about it. That's fine too. Feel free to share those things. And really, that's about it. So that was an improv jam for sort of berlinschool space music. All right. My name is Luke, and you have been watching Synth Seeker. Have a great week.